Emi Sato had always been a jawbreaker. Ever since she was a little girl, she had a candy coating and a hard little center. Not the kind people are born with, but the kind that's made. The kind that only goes one of two ways once it gets crushed together by years of hurtful thises and hateful that's. After stored up words and painful deeds have been fired by a brain pan kiln until it congeals into a round, hard thing. Either a pearl or a bullet, and the outside's just a shell. Her family had lived on a hill outside Osaka. Johnny remembered that much, but where it was exactly, or how to get back to it, he didn't know. He only remembered the whiskered asphalt slope and the tall western house atop it, the two-story blue one, garlanded with ash trees. He had knocked on that front door the last day he ever saw her. She had been gone from school all week, serving yet another suspension for fighting someone who called her yin-yang girl or yogurt face. But when she opened the door that day, she didn't tell him she would be disappearing that very night. She didn't tell him she would leave no trace, or that she would abandon a tight-lipped family and a boy named Johnny wondering if it was his fault that she had gone. Instead, Emi Sato smiled. She hid one arm behind her back and grinned wide and said, "I want to show you something." That was Johnny's cue to put quick hands in his pockets. He would do anything for that face, and he didn't want her knowing it. There was nothing like her skin. Her two-tone face looked like a map, he thought. Her ears sat on pink islands shaped like mirrored images of Antarctica. An archipelago of smaller spots chin-strapped her white jawline. Her pale nose was a glacier, and beneath everything, the structure was perfect. High cheekbones, a chin with just the right amount of sharpness. Thanks. And bright, wide eyes. She was a Venus with vitiligo, and she had hated her skin spots every second of her life. He asked if her parents were home and set off Emi's rich girl snicker, the one that only flowed when she was queen of the palace. Still smiling, she took his hand. The Satos had money, and plenty of it. Mr. Sato wore tailored gray suits and worked for politicians. He did things, but what those things were and where the money came from, nobody knew. More importantly, nobody asked. Johnny certainly never thought to. Scents of wood wax and steamed rice hit Johnny as Emi swept him past the dining table and the girl hunched over a textbook there. He locked eyes with her little sister. Stern and studious, Hana had perfect one-toned skin, but only half her sister's beauty. Her glasses sat haphazardly on her average little forehead, tangled in oily hair. Upstairs, Emi's room had changed. The laces and reds of last year were extinct. Her half-open closet was now blacker than the mouths of Heian-era court ladies who painted high eyebrows on their foreheads and wrote poems all day. She flopped on the bed chest first and patted the comforter beside her. He folded his arms and leaned against her desk instead. It took all his strength not to join her immediately. She shrugged and sat up, fussing with a cuff. "Now my skin does what I tell it to," Emi said. She tugged the shirt sleeve up from her wrist, revealing a hooked scar along her elbow. Thin as a toothpick and raised like a sticky minnow lying dead on her skin, it shared the healthy pinkness of her ears. "It dances too," she said and giggled. When she flexed, it jerked like a puppet. "And it can be explained away," she said, tapping her teeth. "I think a bicycling accident caused it." Johnny moved to the bed, squeaking its springs as he settled in. He felt awkward and small as he ran a finger down the pink island that owned her left ear. Emi pouted. "Why touch it?" "Because I like to," he said. "I show you something great," she snapped, "and you focus on my flaws." "Maybe because they're beautiful." His fingers surfed the white ocean to her chin, dropped in on the curl of her collarbone. "Not flaws." He was waiting to be told no, to be told to stop. But the rebuke never came, so his fingertip dodged the blotted pigmentation around her hairline and found its way to the paleness at the nape of her neck. The kind that mimicked a powdered apprentice geisha's, only permanent, only done by nature's own hand. "You just like it," she continued, "because you think I look on the outside how you look on the inside." She meant she was white and pink, two different colors together but separate, unmeshable. It was nothing she hadn't said before. It was one of her favorite things to chuck at him, but the way she said it stopped Johnny's finger. For his classmates and for his mother's friends, his Americanness canceled out his Japanese-ness. He was only hafu to them. Half. Two disconnected parts that didn't add up to a whole anything. But together, he and Emmy were something. Two misfits finding a fit. His fingertips started up again, running marathons around her island coasts and promontories, then even to her bruises. They looked like storm clouds and layered yellow blankets blobbed on her ribs and thighs, and she didn't flinch. He put his knuckle scars up against her elbow, lifted his shirt, and gauged the Australia-shaped bruise of his own, the one where he had caught a bat with his ribs, the one where he had learned bullies never go away when you beat them, they just hit you from behind next time. He moved to pull his shirt down, but she pushed his weight out from under him and rolled on top, pinning his shoulders. When she brought her face close to Johnny's, it seemed she was bullying everyone who ever bullied her. He was a prone scapegoat, and she kissed him like most women slap. Fierce, quick, and he took it. Anything was worth it to be with Emmy. It didn't matter that it scared him. He liked it, and he didn't care if she knew it. One room away, Hannah held her breath as she pressed her whole body to the shared wall to listen.